Good morning, all of you. In today's session, we are going to start with CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science, December 2015, Part C, Series 1. Here, already we completed 2016, 17, 18, 19, 2020 academic year question papers. All are available on the channel called World of Competitive Chemistry. This kind of previous year question paper discussion will help you for the preparation towards entrance examinations and competitive exams as well. So being it is a standard question paper, this kind of preparation will fetching for your further future preparations. Let us enter into our actual concept. Here in today's session, we are going to start with CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science, December 2015, Part C, Series 1, consisting question number 71 to 80. Question number 71, the resonance Raman stretching frequency, the stretching frequency of oxygen is 1580 and oxygen bounded to oxyhemoglobin is closer to, right? So here molecular oxygen stretching frequency was given, being it is a bond order 2. So here double bonded compound, its stretching frequency is given as 1580, right? So whenever this oxygen bounded to iron, what happens? Iron oxygen intimacy is more and high affinity for the bond formation, so that consequently oxygen bond becomes weaker and its stretching frequency becomes lower. So initially it is 1580. After binding with the hemoglobin, so oxyhemoglobin is formed. During this, here iron oxygens become a strong bond and oxygen bond stretching frequency became 1100. Okay, that is provided in option number 4. For question number 71, option number 4 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 72. It is a part of bioinorganic chemistry. Here, two different columns are provided. We have to map both the columns. Hemoglobin, cytochrome B, vitamin B12, hemocyanin. These are the compounds which are present in the living organisms, and what are their corresponding function we have to correlate. For that purpose, let us see one by one. First is about hemoglobin. This is about the hemoglobin system, where central iron surrounded by porphyrin ring system, and here we have side chain alkanes, and here polar functional groups also present. Initially, iron existing Fe plus 2 oxidation state. Whenever it bounded to oxygen, so here the main purpose of this hemoglobin is oxygen transportation. So it is a blood red color pigment, and the porphyrin ring system will be there. 4 pyrrole rings and 4 6-membered rings also available within the ring structure, right? So here hemoglobin oxygen transportation. And next is about cytochrome B. This is about the structure of cytochrome B. Again, it is consisting porphyrin ring system and central iron surrounded by pyrrole moieties, and even 6-membered rings also present within the complex. And here we have side chain cysteine. Cytochrome consisting side chain cysteine amino acid moieties, and the main purpose of cytochrome will be electron carrier. It used to transport the electrons from one region to another region, so it is regarded as an electron carrier. And next is about vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is also known as cyanocobalamin, where cobalt is the central metal. Cobalt exists in +3 oxidation state, and these are the porphyrin ring systems whichever present in its surrounding. And this condensed ring system is called imidazole, and the entire system is surrounded by these amide functional groups. So this is called Corrin ring system. And here the main purpose of vitamin B12 is used in the group transfer reaction. So it is used in the group transfer reaction. And the next is about another bioinorganic molecule called oxyhemocyanin. Hemocyanin is composed of copper and 2 copper metals which are bounded by imidazole moieties. How many are there? Each copper surrounded with 3. Entire 6 imidazole moieties are present in this hemocyanin. And whenever it bounded to oxygen working like a bridge. And here these 2 coppers further binded with the imidazole moieties, and histidine amino acid base is present within the structure. And the major use of this kind of copper containing pigment will be oxygen transportation. Let us see which are the suitable answers for all these. Hemoglobin is the oxygen transport and composed of iron. Cytochrome B is composed of again iron, and it is a kind of electron carrier. Vitamin B12, a group transfer and composed of cobalt +3. Hemocyanin, which is present in marine invertebrates and it is especially used in the oxygen transportation and made up of copper, where it is mentioned oxygen transport to copper, that is the third option. 1 mapped with 6. A with 6 is provided in 1 and 3 both. Cytochrome B is the electron carrier iron, 1 is there. B with 1 is provided only in the option number 1. And vitamin B12 group transfer cobalt. So vitamin B12, C with 4 is there. Hemocyanin, oxygen transportation and copper. D with 3, that is given in the option number 1. For question number 72, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 73. Here, pick the correct statement about the atomic adsorption spectroscopy from the following. Atomic adsorption spectroscopy is the kind of spectral analytical method where most of the metals can be analyzed by this method, right? So initially light source is employed. For this purpose, we are employing that halo cathode lamp as the light source. From that halo cathode lamp, light is emitted and metals got evaporized by the process called atomization. Graphite furnace is employed for that purpose, atomizer. Graphite furnace used as the atomizing agent, and mostly it is employed for the metallic substances. Non-metals cannot be analyzed by this method, and the efficiency of AA is less compared to ACP AAs. ACP AAs is more proficient when compared to AAs. This is a wrong statement what they given. So ACP AAs denotes what? Inductively coupled plasma optical emission spectroscopy. So it will be the better efficient method when compared to atomic adsorption spectroscopy, right? So here mercury lamp to be used for this purpose is the correct one. Instead of mercury lamp, what we are using, halo cathode lamp is used. Graphite furnace used for the atomization process. This is also the correct statement. Non-metals cannot be analyzed by this method. This is also the right statement. AAS is better than ICP is not a correct one. ICP is more proficient when compared to AAS method. So A, B, C are correct statements. D is the wrong one. A, B, C are given in the option number 1. For question number 73, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 74. This is a part of nuclear chemistry. Identify radioactive capture from the following nuclear reactions. These are the nuclear reactions where radioactive capture got carried. Radioactive capture denotes what? Projectile will be the parent element where nitrogen will be bombarded, and the ejectile will be the gamma radiation. Ejectile will be the gamma radiation, right? So that is available in projectile will be the neutron bombardment and the sodium. Ejectile will be the gamma radiation along with this element, isotopic element, that is provided in option number 2. Gamma radiation is projected, that is not a correct one. Gamma is the ejectile, not a projectile, right? So here neutron will be bombarded upon the starting molecule. That is exactly mapped in the option number 2. Radioactive capture denotes what? So when incident neutron, we are taking neutron, that neutron completely absorbed by the starting material nucleus. So upon absorption, that is called capture of the neutron. So being it is evolving radiation after the absorption, hence you can say it is the radioactive capture. This process can occur at all incident neutron energies, but probability of the interaction strongly depends upon the incident neutron energy. So here, whenever sodium bombarded with a neutron, so within the problem they mentioned sodium bombarded with a neutron. Here, sodium isotope of 24 along with the energy, that is gamma radiation, will be emitted. This is about the process. So it follows parent nucleus becomes a projectile, daughter nucleus becomes a ejectile. This is a process carried within the reaction, and it is clearly mentioned in this image also. This neutron, when absorbed, when neutron absorbed, so that here emission of the radiation, this curved arrow indicates emission of gamma radiation is possible. Here dotted ball is indicated, which is a neutron capture. So this simply called a neutron, this simply called a radioactive capture. That is clearly mentioned in the option number 2. For question number 74, option number 2 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 75. The calibration curve in spectropolarimetric analysis becomes non-linear when. So spectropolarimetric analysis got carried, and based on Lambert-Beer's law, we can spectropolarimetric analysis will be carried. A is equal to epsilon CL. A denotes a percentage of absorption by the given compound. Epsilon is a proportionality coefficient. C is the concentration. L is the length of the medium. Okay. So if we are variating the concentration, like increasing the concentration extremely high, so this may not obey Lambert-Beer's law, and there is no possibility or to achieve the straight line. Because whenever concentration rises, what happens, all the molecules get associated and that will deviate from the straight line. So that purely depends upon what concentration of phenolate is high. So here this is purely explained based on Lambert-Beer's law. A is equal to epsilon CL, right? So calibration curve will not be linear when concentration of phenolate is extremely large. That is given in the option number 3. For question number 75, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 76. Manganate deep purple and the rhenium oxide is a colorless. What could be the reason for this one? When we compare these two, central metal is different, oxygen, and all the negative charge is also same. So being both are same group elements, but one will be colored and either will be colorless. This is purely because of energy gap between these two. So color of most of the transition metals are mainly due to DD transition. DD transition denotes what? Lower D level can, electron from lower D level can excite into higher D level. So if that energy gap is extremely low, so that easy excitation is possible, most of the transition metals are multivariant oxidation state and consequently colored compounds, most probably because they are able to observe in the visible region only. But rhenium, being rhenium, both the d orbitals, lower and higher level d orbital distance is extremely large. That's the reason why electron may not capture energy in visible region. So that charge transfer is not possible in the visible region for oxygen rhenium complex when compared to oxygen manganese. So the exact answer will be option number 3. For question number 76, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 77. Neta3C3H5 manganese CO taken for shows fluxional behavior. Proton NMR spectrum of this compound when it is in the non-fluxional state shows. What is meant by fluxional, non-fluxional nature? Whenever compound was taken, if there is a change, interchange in the position of axial to equatorial, equatorial to axial ligand, interchange is possible, that is said to be fluxional nature. If ligands are stagnant and may not be delocalized, that is called non-fluxional nature. Whenever temperature rises, at high temperature, all the ligands are flexible in nature and there is a possibility of interchange. When we are lowering the temperature to 0 or even less than 0, what happens? Those ligands becomes rigid and non-delocalized, so that non-fluxional behavior can be attained by that one. So when we are taking this manganese CO taken for Neta3C3H5, Neta3 denotes 3 electrons contributed by this propionyl ligand towards this manganese. Let us see how the structure can be depicted. This is about the resonance hybrid structure of manganese CO taken for and what C3H5. C3H5 ligand is there, where so this is a general structure where we can indicate all the hydrogens. Here terminal carbon having 2 hydrogens which are denoted with H1, H2, and this last carbon also denoted with H4, H5. The middle carbon H3 hydrogen will be there. How many possible hydrogens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 possible hydrogens are present in this compound, and all are non-equivalent whenever we are employing high temperature conditions, and you will get 5 signals for this compound. in proton NMR spectrum. But what we are doing, we are going to lower the temperature to 0 or even less than 0 degrees centigrade. Whenever temperature lower to 0 or even less than 0, H1 and H4 becomes what? Identical. H2 and H5 also becomes identical. H3 is somewhat different. So that here 3 set of protons will be obtained when it becomes non-fluxional. All the protons are in their fixed position, so that the corresponding number of proton NMR signals for this compound will be 3. 3 signals will be appeared whenever it is a non-fluxional. Fluxional will give 5 signals. Non-fluxional will give only 3 signals. That is purely because of there is a lack of interchange of the position, so the polar identical in nature, and 3 signals with the intensity ratio of 2:2:1. For question number 77, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 78. The number of lone pair of electrons present in the central metal: bromine A4 minus, xenon F6, strontium Cl6 minus 3 are respectively. So when we are taking these 3 compounds of halogens, and this is said to be interhalogen compound, where bromine tetrafluoride will be there. Here inert gas halide, xenon hexahalide hexafluoride will be there. Here it is the superacid starting material, strontium hexachloride minus 3 was taken. When these 3 compounds were taken, how many lone pair of electrons will be there, and how many bond pair of electrons there? So let us depict by using a simple guidelines. Here, in order to predict the bond pair and lone pair of electrons, we have certain guidelines. First, we have to go with total valency electrons present in the given compound. How many valency electrons are there? That should be calculated later. Total valency electrons can be divided with 8. Okay, so that can be divided with 8. So if no remainder left, whatever value obtained, whatever answer obtained, that will becomes exactly bond pair of electrons present in the compound. If any remainder is there, that remainder will become number of lone pair of electrons present in the compound. For example, so if we are going to multiply 16 with 8, what happens? 8 to 16. So this depicts what answer is 2, right? So 2 bond pairs will be there and no remainder left, so that lone pair of electrons will be 0. So in this way, we can go with the total valency electron and subsequent bond pair, lone pair of electrons present in the given compound. Let us calculate for this bromine tetrafluoride minus. How many total valency electrons? Bromine, fluorine, which block elements? All these belongs to halogen family, and all these are 7th group elements, right? NH2 NP5 will be the outer electronic configuration. NH2 NP5 means total how many? 7 valency electrons will be there. How many halogens? Here bromine A4, 4 fluorines, 1 bromine, total 5 are there. 5 into each halogen consisting 7 valency electrons. 5 into 7 plus here 1 electron will be there on its valency shell. That when 1 electron is also added, that will become plus 1. So here it is 36. Now 36 can be divided with 8, so that we will get this can be divided with 4. 4 will be the answer and the remainder 2 will be left. So that 4 bond pair electrons and 2 lone pair electrons will be there. So in this way, around the bromine, you can find 4 fluorine. So 4 bonds are available. So that subsequently you can say 4 bond pair of electrons are there. And here you can find 2 lone pair of electrons on its valency shell. This is about bromine tetrafluoride. Let us go on to xenon hexafluoride. When xenon hexafluoride was taken, xenon being it is the inert gas, NH2 NP6 configuration. So total 8 electrons, valency electrons will be there, and each fluorine contributing how many? Each fluorine contributing 7 electrons. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 into 7. So we can go with that calculation, so that you can find 1 lone pair of electron on this central xenon. So 1 lone pair and 6 bond pairs will be there. When we go with this strontium hexachloride, strontium being it is a member of nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. So oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead. boron, aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium. Boron family followed by carbon family, carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead. Carbon, next is about nitrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony. So this is the antimony. So it is the member of nitrogen family. So here total valency electrons will be 5 for this terbium, and here 6 halogen ligands are there, so that you can go with the total valency electron and the subsequent calculation. So one lone pair of electron will be there on the central terbium. So this is about the possible one. 2, 1, 1 can be predicted. These 2, 1, 1 given in the option number 3. For question number 78, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 79. Consider the following reaction. N3P3Cl6, right? N3P3Cl6 was taken. These are called phosphine compounds. These are said to be phosphine compounds. Now it will be added with 6 moles of secondary amine. N comma and dimethyl amine is the secondary amine. When it is added, there is a probability of 2 mixture of products. One is A, second is B. Here, what will happen? 3 of the chloro will be replaced with 3 amines, so that you can say it is a nucleophilic substitution. Moreover, whatever leftover thing is there, that will be here 3 chlorines we are discarding, and 3 hydrogens will be discarded, so that 3 HCl will be formed. And the balance thing Me to NH. So secondary amines, how many will be there? More 3 secondary amines will be there. So in this way, these 2 compounds are generated after the reaction with this phosphine, reaction of phosphine with secondary amine. What they are asking, number of possible isomers for this compound. How many isomers are possible for this compound? So first, initially, this compound phosphine exists in cyclic form like this. It is a cyclic compound. Alternative double bonds are arranged in this manner, just resembles benzene. How benzene is alternatively arranged, but only all carbon atoms homo atomic species it is. But in case of the cyclophosphine, nitrogen, phosphorus alternatively arranged, and even double single bonds also in the conjugation, right? So whenever it is treated with 6 moles of secondary amine, there is a probability of 3 different products. One is called geminal phosphine, second is called cis-phosphine, third is called trans-phosphine. When geminal phosphine was taken, geminal denotes what? On the same phosphorus or same atom, if 2 similar functional groups are present, that is called geminal. Here you can clearly observe around this phosphorus we have N comma and dimethyl, and one more N comma and dimethyl will be there. On the second carbon also N comma and dimethyl is there. So here this is said to be a geminal, being 2 similar groups on the same atom. And next is about cis. What is meant by cis? Cis isomer is nothing but all the similar isomers are inclined in the one phase, in another similar isomers are similar functional groups are inclined in the another phase. So that is said to be a cis isomer. Here in the second diagram, you can clearly see that all the chloro are on the right hand side, all the secondary amine groups are present on the left hand side, right? So in this manner, this is said to be a cis isomer. When we go with trans, trans is nothing but randomly arranged. Amines are opposite, both are inclined in the opposite manner. Even chloro also arranged in the opposite manner, right? Geminal, cis and trans, 3 possibilities we will get whenever it treated with 6 moles of secondary amine, right? So 3 moles are provided in option number 2. For question number 79, option number 2 is the correct answer. Let us move on to last question of the series. Using Wade's rule, predict the structure of C2B5H7. It is a question from carborane, main group element it is. And for this carborane, we can predict it's a cluster structure based on 2 different ways. Even so many ways are available, but we are going to discuss 2 ways for predicting the final answer. So one is, so how many CH groups are there? How many carbons are there? 2 carbons. Let us assume 2 carbons are there, 2 into CH groups. So how many boron groups are there? B5H5. B5H5 means boron groups are 5. So 5 into BH groups. 2 into CH plus 5 into BH groups are there. Okay. So here 2 into carbon valency will be 4, right? When carbon attached to hydrogen, one of the charge will be compensated. C plus H minus, one of the charge compensated, leftover charge and the carbon will be 3. plus 5 into boron valency will be 3 actually. Whenever hydrogen is there, one charge will be compensated so that it will become 2, right? So here 5 into 2 it will be 2 into 3 6 plus 5 into 2 10. Total 16 electron count will be there whenever we are calculating with this formula. So here 16 electrons can be represented in the form of 8 electron pairs when we apply the formula n plus 1. So here n plus 1 denotes what? N denotes number of atoms present in that, number of carbon and boron. In case of carbon and boron both will be considered. In case of boron, only boron will be considered. So here we have how many carbon atoms? 2. Borons are 5. 5 plus 2 how many? 7. So how many electrons more in this calculation? 7 plus 1. That is nothing but the formula is in the form of n plus 1. The formula is in the form of n plus 1. N denotes what? Number of atoms, carbon and boron atoms. How many are there? 7. So 7 plus 1 system it is, so that n plus 1, if n plus 1 cluster is there, that is said to be closo. N plus 2 denotes nido. N plus 3 denotes arachno. N plus 4 denotes hypo. N plus 5 denotes clado. Okay. Closo structure denotes what? Caged like structure will be there. Closo denotes caged like structure will be there, so that here for the C2B5H7 closo is the correct answer. And one more kind of solving the problem will be there, that is in accordance with iso-Lobel analogy. We can convert all the carbon into boron, so that here iso-Lobel analogy can be employed and the cluster structure can be predicted. Let us see how it could be possible. So one carbon will be 4. So one boron will be 3. So in order to balance, so we can take one carbon is equal to BH. Means hydrogen is 1, boron is 3. 3 plus 1 it will become 4 exactly is equal to carbon. This is called iso-Lobel analogy. So here we have C2B5H7 formula. So instead of C2, let us substitute BH taken twice. When BH taken twice was taken, how many borons total? B5 plus 2. B7 it will become, and H7 plus 2. H9 it will become. B7H9. What is the formula? BnHn plus 2 will be there. Means B7H 7 plus 2 will be there. 7 plus 2 nothing but 9, right? So n plus 2 formula when applied for this one, that will become closo. N plus 4 becomes nido. N plus 6 becomes arachno. N plus 8 becomes hypo. So in both the ways you can go for the calculation, and in both the cases you got the answer as closo. So C2B5H7 existing in closo cluster structure, being it is a caged one. For question number 80, option number 2 is the correct answer. By this we completed the entire series of this CSIR NET JRF Chemical Science December 2015 series 1, consisting questions from 71 to 80. Hope it will be very much helpful for you. Thank you very much for your patience listening. Thank you one and all.